Have you ever met someone for just 5 minutes, and that meeting changed your whole life? This story is about a young man named Daniel. And one rainy evening, at a small train station, he met a stranger. Daniel was 22 years old. He lived in a small town in the United States. He had big dreams, but no clear direction. Every day, he worked at a grocery store. He woke up at 6 a.m. He made coffee. He checked his phone. He went to work. And every night, he came home tired. His life was safe. But it was boring. Daniel wanted more. He wanted to move to New York City. He wanted a better job. He wanted adventure. But he was afraid. Afraid of failure. Afraid of rejection. Afraid of leaving his comfort zone. One evening, after work, it started raining heavily. The sky was dark. The wind was cold. Daniel missed his usual bus. So he decided to wait at the train station instead. The station was almost empty. Only a few lights were on. Water was dripping from the roof. The sound of rain was everywhere. Daniel sat on a wooden bench. He felt tired. Not just physically tired, but emotionally tired. He looked at his phone. No new messages. No exciting news. Just the same routine. Then suddenly, he heard a voice. "Excuse me. Is this seat taken?" Daniel looked up. In front of him stood an older man. Maybe in his late 50s. He was wearing a long dark coat. His hair was gray. But his eyes were sharp and confident. "No, it's free," Daniel said. The man sat down slowly. For a few minutes, they didn't speak. The rain continued. The train was delayed. Then the man asked, "You look like someone who is thinking too much." Daniel was surprised. "I'm just tired," he replied. The man smiled slightly. "There's a difference." Daniel didn't know why. But he felt comfortable talking to this stranger. "Do you ever feel stuck?" Daniel asked. The man looked at him carefully. "Every human feels stuck at some point," he said. "The question is, do you stay stuck?" That sentence hit Daniel deeply. Stay stuck. "I want to change my life," Daniel said quietly. "But I don't know where to start." The man nodded. "Most people wait for the perfect moment," he said. "But the perfect moment doesn't exist." A loud thunder sound filled the sky. Daniel listened carefully. "What do you do?" Daniel asked. The man paused for a second. "I build companies," he said calmly. Daniel blinked. "Like, businesses?" "Yes. I started my first business when I was 24. It failed in 1 year. I lost almost everything." Daniel was shocked. "But you look successful," he said. The man laughed softly. "Failure is part of success." The train announcement speaker made a loud noise. Train to New York arriving in 10 minutes. New York. Daniel's heart beat faster. That was his dream city. "You're going to New York?" Daniel asked. "Yes," the man replied. "I have a meeting tomorrow morning." Daniel hesitated. He wanted to ask something important. "Can I ask you something personal?" he said. "Of course. How did you know what to do with your life?" The man looked at the rain for a moment. "I didn't," he said honestly. "I just started." Daniel felt confused. "That's it?" "That's it," the man smiled. "Clarity comes after action. Not before." Those words stayed in the air. Clarity comes after action. Daniel felt something changing inside him. The man continued. "When I was your age, I was scared too. I worked in a small shop. I had big dreams. But I had zero confidence. Daniel listened carefully. One day, the man said, "I bought a one-way ticket to New York." Daniel's eyes widened. "You just left?" "Yes. I had no apartment. No job. No guarantee." "Weren't you afraid?" "Terrified," the man replied honestly. "But I was more afraid of living a small life." Silence. Only rain. Only thoughts. Daniel imagined himself in New York. Tall buildings. Busy streets. Opportunities everywhere. But also risk. "What if I fail?" Daniel asked softly. The man looked directly into his eyes. "What if you don't try?" That question felt heavy. Deep. Powerful. The train lights appeared in the distance. The man stood up slowly. "This is my train," he said. Daniel felt sudden panic. He didn't want this conversation to end. "Wait," Daniel said quickly. "Can I ask you one last thing?" The man smiled. "If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?" The train stopped. Doors opened. People started moving. The man stepped closer to Daniel and said quietly, "Stop waiting." Then he walked into the train. The doors closed. The train left. And Daniel was alone again. But something was different. The rain was still falling. The station was still quiet. But Daniel's mind was not the same. He looked at the train tracks. New York. Opportunity. Fear. Action. His phone buzzed. It was a notification from a job website. Marketing assistant, New York City, entry level. Daniel stared at the screen. Was this a coincidence? Or a sign? His heart was beating fast. He had two choices. Go home. Or take the next train. He stood up slowly. And for the first time in his life, he did not feel stuck. He felt ready. But ready for what? The next train to New York arrives in 20 minutes. What will Daniel do? Will he stay in his safe, comfortable life? Or will he finally stop waiting? The next train to New York arrived in 20 minutes. Daniel stood on platform 7. His heart was racing. He looked at his phone again. Marketing assistant, New York City, entry level. He had no plan. No apartment. No savings for many months. Just a dream, and the words of a stranger. Stop waiting. The cold wind touched his face. His hands were shaking. He thought about his small apartment. His comfortable bed. His safe job at the grocery store. Then he imagined something else. 5 years later. Same town. Same job. Same regret. That image scared him more than failure. The sound of the train echoed in the distance. This was the moment. He took a deep breath. And bought a one-way ticket. As soon as he pressed confirm, his body felt light. Not because everything was solved. But because he finally chose action. The train arrived. Doors opened. Daniel stepped inside. He didn't know it yet. But that was the most important step of his life. 4 hours later. New York City. Bright lights. Tall buildings. Endless noise. The city was alive. Daniel stepped out of the station and felt very small. Cars were moving fast. People were walking quickly. Nobody looked relaxed. This was not his quiet hometown. This was real life. For a second, doubt entered his mind. What did I do? But then he remembered the older man. Clarity comes after action. Daniel found a cheap hostel for the night. The room was small. The bed was uncomfortable. But he couldn't sleep. His mind was full of possibilities. The next morning, he wore his best shirt. He fixed his hair. He practiced introducing himself. "Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm passionate about marketing and communication." He repeated that sentence 10 times. At 9:15 a.m., he stood in front of a modern glass building. This was the company from the job post. His hands were sweaty. He almost turned around. But he didn't. He walked in. The receptionist smiled politely. "Do you have an appointment?" Daniel paused for 1 second. "No," he said honestly. "But I saw your job posting online, and I'm here to apply in person." The receptionist looked surprised. Most people send emails. Most people wait. Very few people show up. "Please take a seat," she said. 10 minutes later, a woman in her early 30s came out. "I'm Emily, the marketing manager." She looked professional. Confident. Direct. "You came without an appointment?" she asked. "Yes," Daniel replied. "I didn't want to miss the opportunity." Emily studied him carefully. "Follow me." They entered a small meeting room. "So," she said, "why should we hire you?" Daniel's mind went blank for a second. Then he remembered something important. "Be honest." "I don't have a lot of experience," he said. "But I learn fast. I work hard. And I'm not afraid to start from zero." Emily didn't smile. She just listened. "I moved here last night," Daniel added. "From where?" "A small town." "Why?" Daniel swallowed. "Because I didn't want to stay stuck." Silence. Emily leaned back in her chair. "That's interesting," she said slowly. "Most candidates talk about skills. You talk about growth." Daniel felt nervous. "Growth is more important than comfort," he said carefully. Emily finally smiled. "You remind me of someone." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. "Who?" "My mentor," she replied. "He built this company from nothing. He always says, clarity comes after action." Daniel froze. That sentence. Again. "Who is your mentor?" Daniel asked quietly. Emily turned her laptop around. On the screen was a photo. It was the same older man from the train station. Daniel couldn't believe it. "That's him," Daniel whispered. "You know him?" Emily asked. "I met him last night. At a train station." Emily laughed softly. "That sounds like him. He likes talking to strangers." Daniel felt chills. Was that meeting random? Or intentional? Emily looked serious again. "We don't usually hire people without interviews," she said. "But I like courage." Daniel held his breath. "I can offer you a 1-month internship," she continued. "It's not a high salary. It will be difficult. Long hours. Big expectations." Daniel didn't hesitate. "I accept." Emily extended her hand. "Welcome to the team." Daniel shook her hand. In that moment, he understood something powerful. Opportunities don't always look perfect. Sometimes they look risky. Sometimes uncomfortable. Sometimes scary. But growth lives there. 1 month later. Daniel was tired almost every day. He made mistakes. He learned fast. He stayed late at the office. He asked questions. He improved. One evening, as he was leaving work, someone called his name. "Daniel." He turned around. It was the older man. Standing in the hallway. Smiling. "You made it," the man said. Daniel smiled back. "You knew," Daniel replied. The man nodded. "I saw it in your eyes. You were ready. You just needed a push." Daniel felt grateful. "Why did you talk to me that night?" he asked. The man paused. "Because someone once did the same for me." Simple. Powerful. That's how growth spreads. One conversation. One risk. One decision. Daniel looked out the window at the New York skyline. He wasn't successful yet. He wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. But he was no longer stuck. And that changed everything. So let me ask you something. Are you waiting? Waiting for the perfect time? The perfect plan? The perfect confidence? Maybe you don't need more time. Maybe you just need one brave step. Just like Daniel. Because clarity comes after action. And your story can change, in one moment. If you enjoyed this story and learned new English words and expressions, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful English stories. This is Fluent English Lab. And remember, stop waiting. Start growing.